Derek Carr has been a top performer this season, helping the Las Vegas Raiders jump out to a 5-3 record, including a victory over the Chiefs. Carr has impressed since he entered the league back at the 2014 NFL Draft. At the draft, though, he didn't go until the 36th selection in the second round. In a draft littered with busts everywhere, how did the quarterbacks taken before the three-time Pro Bowler pan out? First, I'd like to acknowledge that the majority of the people who watch our videos aren't subscribed to the channel. Help us out by subscribing and joining us on our way to 100K, because it's coming fast, and you don't want to miss your opportunity to enlist in the J&D Army. First, let's take a look at the rise of Derek Carr. Derek Dallas Carr was born on March 28, 1991 in Fresno, California. His older brother David was the first overall pick at the 2002 NFL Draft to the Houston Texans. Derek started his high school career at Clements High School in Sugar Land, Texas, where he passed for 1,246 yards and 12 touchdowns to 7 interceptions as a sophomore. He followed it up with 1,622 yards and 16 touchdowns to 8 interceptions as a junior. For his senior season, his family moved back to Bakersfield, Texas, where he attended Bakersfield Christian High School. As a senior, Carr went 12-1 behind his 4,067 yards and 46 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Carr decided to go play football at California State University, Fresno, where he committed to after his junior year of high school. Carr was in the early race for the starting job at Fresno State as a true freshman, but was ultimately the backup and recorded 112 yards. He redshirted in 2010 before taking over as the starter in 2011. Carr was impressive with 3,544 yards and 26 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, but the best was yet to come. As a junior, Carr was named MWC Offensive Player of the Year after passing for 4,104 yards and 37 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Not only did Carr decide to return for his senior season, but he was named MWC Offensive Player of the Year again. He had 5,083 yards and 50 touchdowns, both of which led the FBS, along with only 8 interceptions. Teams loved Carr's arm going into the 2014 NFL Draft, but it was his intangibles that stood out. At the draft, the Oakland Raiders took Carr with the 36th selection in the second round. Carr requested his number 4 he wore in college, and it was granted, a number that he wears in honor of his favorite NFL player, Brett Favre. Despite being a second rounder, Carr managed to win the job to start the opener as a rookie. He went on to impress with 3,270 yards and 21 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. From 2015 to 2017, Carr established himself as one of the game's top passers, going for 11,420 yards and 82 touchdowns to 32 interceptions over the span. Additionally, Carr was in the talk for the MVP race back in 2016 before going down with a fibula fracture. He did make an appearance on the NFL Top 100 list at number 11. Then, ahead of 2017, Carr signed a 5-year, $125 million extension. Although the Raiders have had a few years of poor rosters around Carr, he did well in 2018 and in 2019, passing for 8,103 yards and 40 touchdowns to 18 interceptions over the span. Now, with new weapons in Henry Ruggs and Josh Jacobs, the recently relocated Las Vegas Raiders have impressed in 2020, including a shocking victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. The Raiders currently sit at 5-3. Carr has 2,002 yards and 16 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions this season so far. Carr has been great in the NFL, but how about those guys taken ahead of him? With the first overall pick at the 2014 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars selected UCF's Blake Bortles. Bortles was seen as a 3-star recruit and the number 33 pro-style quarterback coming out of high school. He had a handful of college offers and opted to go play for UCF. He redshirted his first season before getting some playtime as a freshman with 958 yards and 6 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Bortles got the starting job in 2012 and went on to pass for 3,059 yards and 25 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. In 2013, Bortles and the Knights won the AAC championship and went on to beat number 5 Baylor in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. Bortles was named the game's offensive MVP after passing for 301 yards and rushing for 93 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had 3,581 yards and 25 touchdowns to 9 interceptions on the year, en route to being named AAC Offensive Player of the Year. Bortles was seen as an easy top pick at the draft thanks to his great pocket presence and mobility. The Jaguars, however, struggled in his first season, going 3-10 as Bortles was getting acclimated to the pros with 2,908 yards and 11 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. Then, in 2015, Bortles went 5-11 with 4,428 yards and 35 touchdowns. Good production, but he did leave the NFL with 18 interceptions. The turnover issues continued in 2016, as Jacksonville went 3-13 behind Bortles' 3,905 yards and 23 touchdowns to 16 interceptions. 2017 was a true mystery for the Bortles saga in Jacksonville though. The defense absolutely dominated as the Jaguars went 10-6. Bortles had 3,687 yards and 21 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Not a great stat line, but the defense was able to carry Jacksonville all the way to the AFC Championship. After one good year, the Jaguars made the mistake of giving Bortles a 3-year, $54 million extension. He went 3-9 as the starter with 2,718 yards and 13 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, but the season was mostly plagued with him getting benched for Cody Kessler a couple of times. Bortles was released after the season, ending his time in Jacksonville with 75 interceptions in 75 games. Bortles signed with the Los Angeles Rams, where he backed up Jared Goff and had 3 yards in 2019. He was signed to the Denver Broncos this season before being released and signed to their practice squad. The Cleveland Browns owned the 22nd selection, where they took Texas A&M's Johnny Manziel. Manziel was listed as a 3-star recruit and the number 13 dual-threat quarterback in the nation coming out of high school. He committed to play college football at Texas A&M. He redshirted in 2011 before winning the starting job in 2012 after the departure of Ryan Tannehill. Simply stated, his season was magical. Against Arkansas, he broke Archie Manning's total offensive record after accounting for 557 yards. Then, Manziel broke his own record with 576 yards against number 24 Louisiana Tech. He started getting some buzz, but the hype hit an all-time high when the Aggies took down number 1 Alabama. Manziel went on to break the SEC record for offensive production with 4,600 yards. He was named SEC Freshman of the Year and, oh yeah, won the Heisman Trophy. Manziel became the first freshman to ever win the award. Manziel got into trouble ahead of his sophomore season after reports that he signed autographs for money. He had far from a sophomore slump, however, passing for 4,114 yards and 37 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. Manziel was named first team All-SEC and finished 5th in Heisman voting. He decided to forego his junior season for the draft and become one of the most polarizing draft prospects ever. He was expected to be a first-round selection, but some considered him undraftable and saw him as arrogant. The Browns decided to trade up to get Manziel, and it didn't go great. Manziel didn't get much time on the field as a rookie, going 0-2 with 175 yards and 2 interceptions. Off the field though, he was constantly questioned for his work ethic and commitment to the game. He got some time to play in 2015, going 2-4 with 1,500 yards and 7 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. The story of the season though was in the Browns finale, when Manziel didn't show up to be with the team and instead was in Las Vegas. That, along with a domestic violence incident, led to the Browns releasing Manziel after only 2 years. Since, Manziel has made some stops around the CFL, playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Montreal Alouettes before going to the AFL to play for the Memphis Express. 32nd overall, the Minnesota Vikings drafted Louisville's Teddy Bridgewater. Bridgewater was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school and listed as the number 5 dual-threat quarterback in the class. He opted to go to Louisville, where he started his freshman season as a backup but took over in the Cardinals' 4th game. He retained the role and went on to be named the Big East Rookie of the Year after passing for 2,129 yards and 14 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. He led the Cardinals to a Big East title the next year after passing for 3,718 yards and 27 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. As a result, he was named Big East Offensive Player of the Year. Bridgewater continued his collegiate improvements as a junior. Bridgewater was named All-AAC after passing for 3,970 yards and 31 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. At one point ahead of the draft, Bridgewater was considered the number 1 overall selection. In college, he was an accurate passer and made good decisions with the ball. The Vikings liked Bridgewater at the draft and decided to trade up to get him. He started the season as the backup to Matt Castle, but Castle went down with a broken foot and Bridgewater was pushed into the starting role. Bridgewater went on to break the Vikings franchise record with 6 wins as a rookie quarterback. He passed for 2,919 yards and 14 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Bridgewater was named Pepsi Rookie of the Year as a result. He saw some slight improvements in 2015 as the Vikings went 11-5 behind his 3,231 yards and 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. From there, the story of Teddy Bridgewater went downhill. Bridgewater tore his ACL ahead of the 2016 season, and it resulted in him missing most of 2017. He did, however, get in late in the season and got a standing ovation for his return before tossing an interception. In the offseason, Bridgewater signed with the New York Jets. He competed with Sam Darnold before the Jets shipped him off to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for a 3rd-round pick. He spent nearly the entire season backing up Drew Brees, but did get to start in the season finale, a loss to the Panthers. He had 118 yards and a touchdown to an interception on the year. He was surprisingly thrusted into the starting role in 2019 after Brees went down due to a right thumb injury. In his absence, Bridgewater impressed, passing for 1,384 yards and 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. The Saints went 5-0 and helped him land a nice 3-year, $63 million deal with the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers were expected to be horrible this season, but have been respectable and are 3-6. Bridgewater has 2,416 yards and 11 touchdowns to 6 interceptions through 9 weeks in 2020. And finally, with the 36th selection in the second round, the Oakland Raiders took Fresno State's Derek Carr. Carr has become an impressive staple for the Raiders, and he's proven to be more than a capable NFL starting quarterback. The Las Vegas Raiders in their inaugural season have been one of the greatest stories of 2020, but it can't be undershot how important Derek Carr has been to their emergence. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter for more J&D. We read all of our DMs and love hearing what you guys have to say.